Welcome to Nerd Chat, and today we are talking Iron Man 2. Joining us today, as always, for Nerd Talk was Russ Stapleton, right there. Kenzie Days from the Kenzie Days studio. And
I'm trying to point to people and it's not working.
yeah,
This is so hard. Pointing's hard.
Last but not least, Jeff and Angela from Diz Our Dream down in Sunnyvale, Florida.
Sunnyvale.
It's
Jeff
sunny down there.
and
We'll call it Sunnyvale. I think almost every town there is Sunnyvale.
Unless it's raining. Unless it
sunny
starts
where you
raining
are.
within 2 seconds.
Is it sunny where you are, Tracy?
It is very sunny where I am.
Yeah, I can see.
Looks sunny. That's awesome.
It is.
Sunny
It's
where Russ is?
It looks like sunny.
No,
Russ
it is not.
No?
It is that light.
No, it's getting ready to storm here again. So
Really?
Oh, jeez.
yeah. So if I disappear, that's what happened. But yeah.
It looks like it's hitting you on the face.
It's just the light coming in. But yeah, it's definitely cloudy and gross. So
It's like natural light, yeah.
yeah.
Who is she barking at?
It's Jasmine. She's barking at anybody on the street. All right,
Literally
so
anyone.
we have a couple people in chat. Let's welcome Jeffrey Resendez, Pam's
Hi,
fan,
Jeff.
Jonathan Chong, Pam, Jonathan, Big Noah Mountain. Welcome, Big Noah,
You
Pam.
good, man?
Oh yeah, I'm good. Mike Wheeler, as always, was first. Welcome, Amy. Amy from AJC Magic. She is in the house. So
Bless you.
I muted myself just in time too.
Welcome, Iron Man 2. What do we all think? Did we all get to sit down and watch it?
Yes.
Watched it again last night. It's not one of my favorites.
It's not a strong one. I think the villain is not so. The villain's not.
I'm not a fan of this one.
Yeah, I've got lots to talk about with him, but
Yeah, it was a little weird. A little disturbing.
it's got some interesting plot holes for me.
Yes.
And
I think a lot of it is the villain isn't completely thought out. He's, they could have used Whiplash in a much better system, but again, they did a good job. I mean, considering it still made money, it still brought people back to the theater, and it's the second film released in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so it actually continued on going. So, I mean, this could have been the second Iron Man. It could have flopped, and then next thing you know, there's no Avengers, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
Welcome in, Christina.
I did read that the studio was really pushing Favreau to make it well, because it was the beginnings of, they were just getting started on figuring out what they were going to do with the Avengers, and so they were waiting for the first movie to do well, and then now they're ready to go with the rest of them, and so this was the first one that was preparing for the other movies.
Yeah.
And so he was under a lot of pressure to make it do well, so which it did. So
Right.
Was this movie created just to introduce Black Widow and Nick Fury?
Well, Nick Fury was actually introduced in the first Iron Man movie.
right,
Just
But
briefly.
introduce, bring in more Shield.
introduce his character.
It
It was there. They used it to introduce those characters, especially Nick Fury. In fact, they hired Sam Jackson and created the character just for him. Now, Nick Fury was a character in the comics, but they recreated him to be just like Sam Jackson, and so he could make it his own. And so they were basically relying on him a lot for a lot of these movies, for all these, all of them really. And then now the character of Black Widow was originally an Iron Man villain. Her original character came in as an Iron Man villain, and so her backstory has always been tied to Iron Man. But but then later on she becomes one of the Avengers in the comics. So
The Incredible Russ. I just noticed.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
All right, so we got a couple more people in the chat. We have Jamie from Lady Jamers. Welcome in.
Hi, Jamie.
Super Fluffy Yeti. Welcome in. Love that name. Super
fluffy
Yeti. Mike Wheeler's back. Mama from Myers and the Mouse is in the house. Welcome.
What's up?
So,
Jonathan?
I think this one here, this was the basis. If this flopped, you wouldn't have seen anything more. This is where you get Sam Jackson, you get the Avengers Initiative, you get all of this, this base laid down. Again, I think if this one flopped, in other words, if Iron Man 1 was a one-hit wonder and Iron Man 2 didn't do so well, I think you would have seen nothing in this, as far as the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Granted, believe me, I think if they would have started with Thor and then Thor 2, I don't think you would have gotten any traction on any of the cinematic universe. But I think, Iron Man, the way it was created and the way it was done, it was excellent.
And of course, you got to remember too that this was before Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Way
So
before
so they didn't have the financial backing that they do now.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so yeah.
Interesting.
Also, this is why some of the earlier Marvel movies in the cinematic the Marvel universe would be a little more risque. Some of the things that wouldn't be done today because Disney owns it, some of those scenes wouldn't have been filmed or wouldn't have been showed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think even in this one, I think we all know Disney. We all love Disney. They don't have a lot of sexism, or it's not sexism, or that whole
anything that wouldn't.
That's not family friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the first Iron Man, I don't think you would have ever seen any of that. The morning after scene in the first movie from the reporter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think you would have seen that. I don't think you would have seen Tony in this movie here. I don't think you would have seen Tony leering at the assistant, which is the Black Widow, before she was outed as Black Widow, saying, "I want one of where can I get one of those?" Those lines like that, I don't think you would have seen if Disney owned movie, if they would have owned the universe at this time. They were a little more risque, a little bit more pushing the envelope.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, again, they were going with Tony Stark's character, and now because that's the way he is.
Right.
So, but yeah.
So
you definitely notice a difference later on when Disney takes over.
How is Tony Stark's character later on? Is he less that sort of?
He starts out. He's alcoholic. He's very arrogant. Which he very much is in this movie. The Senate scene. The hearing scene, alone is just,
Dude, do you think if Disney owned it, the senator would have said, "Bleep you"?
Oh no.
You know what I mean?
Definitely not.
It's just the way that they hold their business. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's something that, even with Disney streaming, Disney Plus, what they're going to lose against Netflix alone, or
is censoring
the little bit more risque, the little bit more adult topics that Disney won't cover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or even at the end when he's putting on the pins on him, and he goes, "Yeah, Tony, isn't it funny how annoying a little can be?"
Yes.
Well, and then you got the whole party scene, and again that's going back to his character, as an alcoholic, that was a major part of the comics, and so they try to encompass all of that within that one scene, and so it just the craziness that happens whenever he gets drunk and puts on the Iron Man suit, so
yeah.
All right, so let's break down the movie. What questions do you got, Russ?
Well, actually,
or whatever.
Lady Jamers wants to know what Angela thought of it first.
Okay, so I liked it, and I know everyone was kind of saying they weren't too wild about it because probably compared to different other movies, but okay, it's only the second movie I've seen. So, so I feel like I understood it a little better than the first one just because I kind of had an idea. And I did ask you a couple questions. Why are you shaking your head?
I don't think it had your attention.
Yes, it did.
No, you were looking for that cricket. You were looking at how the new lights that I put outside look.
I happened to look outside and I saw the light was
you were
out.
looking at your face.
I happened to look outside.
Well, I was going to go out and check and see if that cricket was outside. There was a loud noise in here. So anyway, he's shaking his head, but I was
watching you. I've seen the movie, so I was watching you watch the movie, and I could tell that it didn't have your full attention.
It did have my attention enough that I was. So yes, but I liked it. I mean, like I said, I didn't understand who. What was his name? Whiplash.
No. Benko.
No, well, I didn't. Samuel Jackson. I didn't know like what his character was at first.
She didn't understand about Rhodey, why Rhodey took the costume.
Well, yeah, I didn't understand why so it seemed like he got into that costume. He got into his armor to stop him from misbehaving at that party. But then he like took it off. He took off in it, and then he turned it in to the government. I'm thinking, why did he turn on him like that? I couldn't understand. Did I miss something?
Because he's losing control of himself, and he's a danger.
Rhodey shows up to the party. Well, even before that, he shows up and he basically gives him an ultimatum. It's like, okay, Iron Man needs to come back at 100%, or you're going to lose him. He warns him.
And did he say if he doesn't, I'm going to take this away?
Well, go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to say it's a new Rhodey too.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. We were introduced to the new Rhodey.
Well, I understood that because you explained.
Yeah, I explained it was a new Rhodey, so she understood that part. Why it wasn't the same character from the first movie. It was just a new actor because of the contract and the pay and all that. So
Well, welcome in.
Hi, Garrett. Hi, Shelly.
Garrett and Shelly Starworker. She is also in. Welcome in.
But yeah, he takes the Mark II suit, and basically because the government tells him to, he is ordered to get it. You know,
he is? Okay, I didn't realize that.
It's that. Well, he's trying to cover for Tony, but at the same time, he has his orders, and so that's why he wants Tony to figure it out, you know, and come back, because otherwise he knows that the government will come in, and he even tells him, you know, I'm holding them off from bringing tanks up here, you know, and taking these suits from you. And so that was his only way to get his orders completed, was to just take it.
Okay.
And he knew that he knew Tony wasn't going to stop him.
Okay.
You know? So sometimes, and in fact, well, I was going to say, in fact, later on, when Fury's giving Tony his, you know, little pep talk in the diner, you know, basically saying, get off your butt and let's, you know, get back to work. You know, he brings him back around and explains, hey, you know, you did this to yourself, you know.
Right. Yeah, sometimes I was having a hard time hearing it or something. I think I need to have closed captioning on the bottom or something. I don't know. But is it weird, like the sound is weird, or maybe
he mumbles, he talks quickly a lot.
He mumbles, and
he does. Well, he does have, he's got that those quick little one-liner quip things that he does, and it's hard to understand sometimes.
But I kept saying, you have to make sure you pay attention to this part. You have to pay attention to this part. And you were going to get water.
I had to get water.
You were going to fuss with the basil plant.
I wasn't fussing with the basil plant.
It was just, it was like you were looking for an excuse not to watch the movie.
Oh, stop.
Kenz, what do you got?
I could go through all of the Marvel movies and not watch this movie and be fine.
Yeah.
It's not something that really interested me.
Yeah, and it's really not central to the storyline to me.
Looking back, the only scene that I ever remembered from watching it a long time ago was that racing scene with Whiplash and all that, and then Pepper and Happy driving in and giving him the suit. That's all I really remembered from this movie from watching it so far long ago. Oh, if I could talk properly. But what was it? I don't know. It's just, I think the only thing that I find crucial about this movie is the introduction of Natasha and Nick Fury and that interaction. That's all I really found to be crucial.
Right.
Well, I mean, what comes out of this movie and is it skippable?
Totally.
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah.
But in order to know who Natasha Romanoff is, and the storylines again, Russ hit it on the head. They brought in his alcoholism, but there was other issues that they were bringing into. They brought in the old palladium poisoning. They brought in the alcoholism. They brought in how, I mean, technically it's the origin story for War Machine. And it brings in Justin Hammer. And if you don't know, Justin Hammer is like the 100%. He's the opposite. He's the competitor. He's the big competitor.
Yeah.
Hammer was also in a lot of the other Marvel characters.
Okay, so he'll be in it coming in the future.
Well,
Oh,
no,
no.
not now. Now he was arrested. He's probably serving time
Yeah.
at the end of this movie, unless But you also get Gary Shandling playing senator. Playing the senator, which if you don't.
Oh, does it?
Yes.
Okay.
He has an overall story arc that finishes in Winter Soldier. So,
it does introduce a lot of the government involvement in with the Avengers, with the superheroes and things like that for later movies, especially for the Avengers. It sets that up. It sets up the fact that okay, now we have superheroes now in the world. What are we going to do about it? Kind of a thing.
And like Russ says, if you want to watch a stark contrast between the growth of Tony Stark, between not only the growth of where he ends up in Endgame, where he ends up in Civil War. At the beginning of this movie, he's telling the government to go scratch, pretty much. Where in Civil War, when you're coming down to the regulation and and what are they called, the Wakanda Accords or the whatever Accords, and Tony Stark's now down with government regulation, where in this movie you could see where his overall growth is, I don't need you to regulate me. I am Iron Man. To quote the movie.
Russ, read Shelley's.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes, I have, Shelley, and I'll talk about it here in a little bit.
He monopolized world peace. That's what he's saying. Welcome in, LSU mom. Hi, Em.
Emily.
All right, so go ahead. What's Shelley Skywalker?
Shelley asked if anybody had read the comics, and she has not. She was wondering if it was true. The movies to comics.
They do, like I say, in the comic books he's very arrogant. He's very very much full of himself and thinks he's the greatest thing ever, which he does, which they portray in the movie where, he's basically telling everybody, I'm Iron Man, I can do what I want. I have this power and, I'm saving the world basically, and you should thank me for it.
I'm reacting to Anne's trying to steal.
I know, trying to get the Oreo.
The Monte Carlo scene was really, really neat, where he was slashing up the cars and all the car crashes. I mean, I thought that was pretty cool how the special effects in that.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, and they had a little Elon Musk. What do you call it? A
interaction or whatever.
Interaction.
Well, cameo. He had a cameo.
Cameo. But now anybody to get hit by that car like that, they're not going to get up from that. I mean, they smashed him with the car how many times?
I know. What was up with that?
Well, so again, in the comics, this entire story from the movie, the writing from the movie has been taken from probably 6 different storylines within the comics. and they squished them together and moved them around. Because of the different characters that they introduce, the different scenes and things like the race car scene is in one of the comics, but it's told differently. The characters, and I'll kind of get on this in a minute with Whiplash. Whiplash is the combination of two actual characters, but then completely changed because Mickey Rourke actually created that character. Jon Favreau gave him creative license to basically do whatever he wanted with this character because it was a made up character. Now they used the name Whiplash, but Whiplash was originally just a mercenary in the comics, and he really doesn't have a huge storyline. He is just a mercenary who uses whips and uses gadgets, and he was a hitman for the mafia. Now, the character of Anton Vanko, he in the comics is the Crimson Dynamo, who he's a Russian counterpart to Tony Stark, basically, who builds his own suit, and it's red, because it's from Russia. So they call it the Crimson Dynamo. Well, the Russians send him to try and take out Tony Stark and to get rid of Tony, because in the comics, Tony becomes the Secretary of Defense, and they kind of make fun of that in the hearing, and because he makes a joke, well, I'll accept, Secretary of Defense, you can make me Secretary of Defense and give me the power, because I already have it. And but yeah, so Crimson Dynamo comes and tries to kill Tony. Well, Tony beats him, and so then they send Black Widow, who is also a KGB agent, to first get the Crimson Dynamo because he failed and he is defected, and then also to kill Tony. And so that's where that whole story comes around. So they are connected, but in a way different way in the comics.
Okay.
Again,
So,
most of this was written during the Iron Curtain era.
Yes, during the Cold War.
During the Cold War.
Yeah.
So you can't think of the Russians today as what we had seen. I mean, this is back during straight up Cold War.
Right.
Berlin Wall, the Iron Curtain. We knew who the enemy was.
Yeah.
Stuff.
How did in the books? How did they did Black Widow end up? Black Widow ended up a part of the Avengers in the comics.
Yes.
How did that flip happen? So
later on, and this is on down the road. So Black Widow started out, she was a villain, and little about, well, and actually she had a relationship with Hawkeye, who was also a villain for the Iron Man comics. He was an archer thief, and so they had a thing together, and so eventually Black Widow decides to defect because she gets turned on by the KGB, or by the Red Room is what they call it, to where she gets, because she's basically been brainwashed. And I don't know if you guys knew this either, but in the comics, she's got enhancements. Like she's got technological enhancements that keeps her young, gives her extra strength, makes her agile like she is. Now in the movies, she's just a human being with just lots of training. But yeah, in the comics, she actually has abilities, and then also the gadgets and things. But a little bit later on, so she kind of got written out of the comics, not necessarily written out, but she just wasn't used as much. But then she came back in the Daredevil comics, and she and Daredevil had a lot of storylines together, and Spider-Man and some of the New York based characters, which a lot of them are New York based. She still had a little bit of tie with Iron Man, but more so with Daredevil. And so it's that time where she has defected. She's come to the U.S. She's working with Daredevil, and then she gets involved with S.H.I.E.L.D. And so S.H.I.E.L.D. then takes her and makes her an agent. And so that's where it becomes, and then they make her one of the Avengers. And so that's kind of where it kind of comes around. It's not the most glamorous story. It's just all of a sudden, she's one of the Avengers. They've rewritten her character. So
Okay.
Mama wants some of those enhancements.
Right?
Whiplash was also in the Whiplash was also in the Phineas and Ferb Marvel crossover. Do you ever see that one?
Well, and then see now they rewrote the character of Whiplash for the newer comics.
Right. Yeah.
Originally, his character was called Backlash, and then a little bit later on, they changed it to Whiplash. But yeah, I love that. I love the Phineas and Ferb Marvel thing. It's funny.
What happened to Mickey Rourke though? What did he do to himself?
I know.
Is that like plastic surgery?
Do you really want to know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they even interviewed and talked to him at some of the stuff I read. He had a really hard time with having like wearing the big suit thing that he had to wear and all that, and they cast him because of the movie The Wrestler that he did.
Yeah.
John Favreau saw him in that and wanted him to kind of play the same character where he's the Brute, and and then like I say, Mickey Rourke just kind of made that character his own and really did a lot of course. I mean, he did all the tattoo stuff. He did he gained a ton of muscle, in order to so he's just this big brute.
Yeah.
And I think he did a good job of making a scary character. I don't like the way that he was so easily defeated in the end.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, to me, because see, this is where I'm not a fan of the movie. Once he comes and starts making the drones, like to me, they could have left Hammer out of it completely. I kind of wish that they had left Hammer out of it and waited until the third movie, because then that makes a little bit more sense. Well, because the third movie, and again, I'm not going to try and spoil anything for Angie, but the third movie is very similar as far as with all the suits and things, and it's almost a repeat of the comic stories, because they basically reused the comic story to tell both movies and just rewrote it in different ways. But I just feel like
what, Dad?
I thought I heard a snap. I don't know.
I don't know what it was though.
The third movie, I think, if they weren't going to use his main enemy,
Mandarin.
The Mandarin. They should have waited for Hammer. They should have done almost like an arms race, or where Hammer, where they could have taken Hammer and moved him into a point where he's doing something so considerably wrong that it takes Tony to do something. But again, I think because it was that second movie, they wanted to make sure that they got the Avengers origin story arc in there. I think they needed to get the they wanted to have that second enemy. They weren't just ready to a duel. They weren't ready for just one baddie. Again, this was the problem with a lot of Marvel movies, is that their villains, up until Loki, the villains were not very
powerful.
It wasn't very well thought out, and they were really easily defeated. So up until Loki,
which from the comic book perspective, that's the way they are. They're very menacing, but again, your hero still has to win. And so, yeah, I like. I don't know. Like I said, well, when they first wrote the first script, John Favreau originally wanted to use the Mandarin in the first movie, but then Marvel came in and said, "Well, no, let's wait and use him later, because he is supposed to be the more powerful. He's supposed to be the most powerful villain. Plus, the Mandarin has the magic aspect in him, and they didn't want to necessarily use that for the first movie because they were afraid it wouldn't go over well. Now there is a tie-in, and you may or not even know it, but there is a tie-in with the 10 Rings in this movie, because they're the ones that are supporting Whiplash in his endeavors to go get rid of Tony. They're the ones that are giving him the money that he needs to get over to the U.S. They're the ones giving him the fake IDs. They're the ones that broke him out of prison.
No.
But now
Hammer's the one who broke him out of prison.
He's talking about
Hammer's the one. Hammer's the one that is involved, and has done it, but he's working with the Ten Rings. Because Hammer is a mercenary in himself, especially in the comics. He goes where the money is, and he takes advantage of whoever he can take advantage of, and he'll steal whatever. So he's using the Ten Rings. He's using the Ten Rings to make himself more powerful and get more money. So, yeah. So there is a tie-in as far as that goes, but again, you don't really see that until later on in the other movies. So,
at what point, this is totally like not related to Iron Man 2, but in the timeline of movies being released, when did Iron Man 3 come out?
In the release order?
Yeah.
Cinematic release?
Like, was it after or before Avengers?
After.
It's after.
After they had their shawarma.
Because I very vividly, I very much vividly remember going to see Iron Man 3 at the drive-in. I don't know why that is such a vivid memory for me regarding the third movie, but I remember going to see that at the drive-in. I don't remember circumstances under which I saw any of the other movies except Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3 came out after the Avengers. It was the next movie right after the Avengers.
Right. Because you also see the biggest complaint with this one compared to what happened with Thor. They took, when you get into Iron Man 3, when they get into Iron Man 3, they deal with the post-traumatic stress disorder that happens from
Avengers.
You get to Endgame, and the post-traumatic stress that Thor ends up with, they don't give the same courtesy and commitment that they do with Iron Man 3. That's what a lot of people say.
And Lady Jamers is right. The kid in Iron Man 3 is at is in Endgame.
Yep.
Yeah, at the funeral.
So here's a funny fact too. You guys remember the kid in Iron Man 2 with the helmet?
Yes.
That shoots.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now it's come back around that Tom Holland says that was Peter Parker.
Yep. I heard about that. Yeah.
And again, I don't know that that's canon or not, but that's what he said.
Tom Holland's canon, and Tom Holland's canon is really wild.
Well, no, they brought that in.
Also, doesn't know how to keep secrets.
No.
Yeah.
Does he know how to make pizza?
Maybe
Probably.
I have a big plot hole.
What's your plot hole?
Okay. So Iron Man 1, they show Tony how long it took him to fly, right? Like he was getting his balance. Rhodey gets in that thing and he takes right off. Right?
I asked that question. I asked you that. I said, how does he know how to use that suit?
But not only him.
I mean, he just gets in there and it's just like and then I said, maybe he was training.
Yeah.
Maybe he was training or
But
something.
he didn't have access to the suit though.
No.
He may have.
Go ahead, Tracy.
You don't know the time frame between Iron Man.
Oh, I know the time frame.
What's the time frame?
0. There's 0 time.
You think there's 0 time?
He's joking, Dad.
Oh, so as you could tell in the first Iron Man movie, Rhodey turns to the first Mach 1 and says, "Next time." I'm assuming, being they were buddies, that's Tony's kind of already started out training him into using that Iron Man suit.
So actually, it does say in the movie that it was 6 months after. So there's been 6 months between the first movie and the second movie.
So maybe he was letting him play around in it or something. Maybe he was. I don't know. I asked you that question. I'm like, how does he know how to use
you
that
also,
suit?
when he first gets in it, he does have trouble, but again, it's stable. He works. Now Rhodey's a pilot, so he understands. And I'm just making up things now, but Rhodey's a pilot. He knows how to fly. I think too, there is a little bit of an idea that Tony has calibrated the suit for Rhodey because he wants him to take over as Iron Man.
Because here's
in the comics, that's what happens.
Oh, okay.
Because here's the thing: in the beginning of the movie, all right. So we start off at the beginning of the movie. What an entrance into the Stark Expo. Especially the drop out of the airplane, taking off the suit of armor. And then he's checking his blood toxicity level, which is at 19% at the beginning of the movie. What he's saying, that whole process is that the palladium that he's using to power his arc reactor is actually poisoning him. So they brought in that whole poisoning storyline along with the drunk storyline into the Iron Man.
And he kind of spends his last birthday party as if it's his last birthday ever because he thinks he's going to die because of this toxicity. Right. So he was because he knew he wanted to make Rhodey the next Iron Man to take on his legacy as Iron Man. So it's very likely that he made that suit specifically for him.
Well,
then he discovered Epcot. Go ahead.
Oh, stop.
It looked like Epcot, but go ahead.
Well, the Stark's World Fair is the Stark Expo is based on the New York's World's Fair.
Yeah, it is.
So that's why it looks like that, because Epcot is based on the World's Fair.
Yeah, but like how his dad had that all set up.
Well,
it was like he was Walt Disney or something. Yeah.
The character of Howard Stark for the movie was based on Walt Disney.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And in fact, the song at the very, I don't know if there's a song in the credits, and they play it throughout as well, but during the expo parts. But the song is called "Make Way for Tomorrow Today," which was based on "It's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow."
No way, really?
Yeah, so they wrote that just for that. So yeah.
Wow, because when he had that all laid out, when his dad was talking about it, I was like, well, that looks familiar. That looks like a scene with Walt Disney. Talking about
they did that on purpose,
I mean, this I highly ever doubt they thought Disney was going to acquire them. I think this was a cheeky nod to but I mean, Epcot is based on the New York's World Fair, and if you've noticed, there hasn't been a World's Fair that's been since the 64 or whatever 60 something World's Fair.
Yeah.
So. He has an awesome entrance. He's looking at his blood tox of the palladium poisoning, and it's brought up. You see him take the palladium out when he gets back to home. That's why he gives this business over to Pepper Potts. He's considering himself.
He is 100% prepared to die.
He's given his company Pepper Potts. He's because here's the thing: if Rhodey. Because what powers the Iron Man suit? This powers the Iron Man suit. Mm-hmm. Rhodey himself would never be able to take that second suit if he wasn't another arc reactor in that suit. You see what I'm saying? So he had to have that second arc reactor. That suit was set up ready for Rhodey to take.
But that power. It only happens to him because he has to use it in a different way, right?
Right.
So because the other people don't have to actually have it physically in their body, it's not going to hurt them. Right. Okay.
But all he needed to do was create another element. I mean.
Well, I mean, you just create another element. It just
create another element
because that happens all the time.
Right.
Sure.
And then now,
there's a tie-in with that as well, kind of an Easter egg. When he's creating the new element, the technology that is given to him by S.H.I.E.L.D. Supposedly comes from Captain Marvel.
Really?
Which is later on down the road. Again, you'll have to watch that movie, Angela, to understand. But Nick Fury has a tie-in with Captain Marvel, and all that. So it's Project Pegasus. So
you see the mock-up. You see the mock-up of Captain America's shield in this.
I love that scene.
Hey, where did you get that? That's what I'm looking
I need
for,
that.
and he uses it
drops it underneath.
because what he's building is what he's building in his house, and unless you're a real science nerd, he's building himself a particle accelerator. That's what that big construction project that he was doing. That's the super collider, all that stuff. If you hear they're over, this is stuff that some scientists are trying to make a black hole, or trying to make the God element, or something to that effect. So it's an interesting fact that they brought in this, and it had to be level. Big Bang Theory, actually, they were going to, I think if you ever watched that, they were going to go over to the super collider, whatever it's called, over in Sweden. But there's,
Bye, Pam.
Look what Super Fluffy Yeti wrote. Hi, Pam.
Well, yeah, I read that too, and yeah, that's true. Super Fluffy Yeti, he did write that song.
So then we have the palladium poisoning. Go ahead, Kenz. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. No, I was so Jonathan Chan was talking about how Mark and Tom like accidentally spoiling things when it comes to Marvel. Tom Holland has multiple times accidentally spoiled movies. Will film on set and then accidentally post it before he's supposed to, and then Mark Ruffalo likes saying things that he probably shouldn't. Like, there was a moment, I think Tom Holland was on a talk show, and he was like, "Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that." Like, he just does that all the time. So it's gotten to the point where they don't give Tom the full script anymore. They give him fake scripts.
Yeah.
But his scenes are they give him a bunch of different stuff, so he's got it all like wrong, like, so he can't spoil stuff, which I think is hilarious because it's just funny to me.
Hello, Piglet Roo.
Hi, Pigletruski.
Hey.
Pigletruski, Pigletree, dude.
Whatever.
It's a great name. just like Super Fluffy Yeti.
Yeah.
It's so fluffy. Every time I read her name, I'm thinking of
Despicable Me.
Despicable Me. It's so fluffy.
I like the way that they made Justin Hammer look. He's such a powerful man, but yet he's so incompetent in this movie.
Yes.
It was just like a total incompetence, like comedy act in the throughout the whole movie.
So here's a little fact for you. The all the scenes that are filmed in the warehouse, or the big, like the so basically all Hammer's laboratory or whatever, that is at SpaceX in California.
Okay.
And Elon Musk did have a little bit of a tie-in and help with some of the technology stuff for this movie. And then actually after they filmed, the movie there, they built an Iron Man statue that now sits out front.
Okay.
Of
cool.
Of the factory. So I just kind of think that's cool.
Very neat.
So yeah, it's so we have the palladium, and actually that's why he's being a jerk. That's why he's drinking. That's why he's having
off the rails.
And then you see him with the big donut, and then that's when you have the introduction and the reveal that who Black Widow is. They give him a little injection to actually help him out with his palladium poisoning, which is pretty cool. They actually had something that he needed, and then they told him to get his together.
Get his stuff together.
Yeah.
Well, it's also neat because Tony Stark goes up to this point in his life thinking that his dad thinks very little of him, and then while he's watching these films that he's given by Nick Fury, that his dad knows that he has the capability to do all these great things, but the technology wasn't there during his time, but it should be there during Tony's time. So here you go, Tony, you figure it out because I know how brilliant you are. You're my best creation yet, and I know you can do this. And, you know, it gives them that feeling like, oh my gosh, my dad thought this of me. I've been going through life thinking this.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty significant.
Well,
I don't know if it helps him in future movies at all, but yeah.
Yeah, well, John Chong, he makes a point. It's hitting the low point is the core of the film, and it is. It's character development for Tony. It's character development for Iron Man to set up for the rest of the movies, because you know Iron Man is he and Captain America are the two main characters throughout the entire series. Really, I mean, you know, in
this universe, yes, in the
universe, as far as when they're together, and later on.
War.
Right. Yes, from Civil War and all of them from this point forward. And so you've got to have that character development to where, and again, in the comics, that's the way he gets super depressed, he's alcoholic, he drinks all the time, and he's at the lowest point in his life. And in the comics, he loses Stark Industries. And Obadiah Stane takes it from him. And so he basically becomes homeless. He gives up Iron Man. That's when Rhodey steps in to become Iron Man. And so he's basically low as he can get, and he's ready to die. He doesn't care. But then the fact that he has to come back to save Rhodey, who's been injured by the suit, in order to save his friend, he has to become Iron Man again. So he has to hit that low point to then jump back in to be Iron Man. So,
and he doesn't know that Pepper Potts does not like strawberries.
Well,
not that she doesn't like them; she's allergic to them. That would have killed her. Right?
And then he said, "I knew there was something about strawberries."
He did remember.
But that just shows the self-centeredness that he had with dealing with his people.
But if he wouldn't have brought her the strawberries, he wouldn't have been in the office. He wouldn't have seen what his dad was actually trying to tell him with the whole setup on the table. So
he wouldn't have gotten all that, which is pretty cool.
But that was probably his office, right? At one point. So it's been in his office for how many years?
Right.
Correct.
So
it just shows that Tony never came to the office,
Right.
Correct.
And he did, and then Pepper even says, like, you don't know how to run this company. I'm the one that's been doing it for you for years. You don't know how to do it.
Well,
which again, in the comics, those characters, those supporting characters, are what makes Tony Stark. So.
Yeah.
All right. So then you have Rhodey. It's pretty cool. And then you get the reveal that you have that big, super awesome fight scene. Again, Rhodey's taken over. And one of the funniest lines is, I'm going to hit him with what's it called? The Widowmaker. And
the bunker breaker or whatever.
The bunker buster or something like that.
Yeah. And
he hits the thing and it does nothing.
The ex-wife.
Yeah, that's right. The ex-wife. It does nothing. I thought it was very cool. I thought, the fight scene was done. Yes, he was beat pretty easily. But then again, like you said, Russ, in the comic books, they are beaten pretty easily. A lot of your enemies are. Because, again, the hero's got to win. Just like when I told, Kenzie's first time she ever watched Fantasmic. She was upset that Mickey was losing. What I have to tell her, Mickey's going to win.
Mickey always wins.
Yeah, I think the best line of that is when Rhodey and him are fighting in the what is it, the Cisco Globe, and he goes, "Next time, why don't you lead off with that? The one where he tells Rhodey to get down and he just chops everybody. Next time, you might want to start, lead off with that one."
Right.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Jim. I was going to read Super Fluffy Yeti's comment. It said, he asked, did anybody else feel that Tony's bottoming out went too far and made the character dislikable?
No.
And to me, I think Well, I think no, not in the end, but I think that you were meant to not like him.
Yeah.
You know, you were meant to see that. Okay, yeah, this guy is not good.
Yeah.
And
He's got problems.
That's one of the things about these movies is that the main characters and the heroes aren't always going to be the most likable people. You know, Tony Stark is a hero.
Well,
he's a superhero and he does good things, but he's a jerk. And that's one of the things that like I really like about these movies is that they're not just heart of gold, purely like every single thing they say is positive and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There's negative with these people.
That's always been the thing with Marvel Comics is that the characters, even though they're fantastical and they've got these powers or this technology, they're still relatable. And you know, they go through things just the same as us, and the emotion of that is what makes the stories so much better. You know, and I'm a huge DC fan as well. I love Superman. I mean, now Batman's a different story because he's got a better story arc to me. But you know, those characters have always been unrelatable because they're almost godlike. And
that's what I was gonna say. They have like a god complex to them.
And they you know that they can't be hurt. Now they may feel pain, or they may, and again, Batman's kind of an exception because he is human. But these characters, and I think that's why Spider-Man is such a huge character to everybody, to people, because he's a kid who is dealing with being a kid,
teenager,
but also has these incredible powers, and that's why the line, with great power comes great responsibility. It's something like how would you feel if all of a sudden now you could swing through buildings and lift trucks and do all this stuff, but you're a teenager. What are you going to do with that?
You have to do your homework, man.
So yeah.
I mean,
so they're much more relatable.
I mean, if you were a true science person, you would happen to say, Iron Man is totally unrealistic, because just imagine all the hits that he takes. The human body still moves. And that's why it's
that's why they're movies.
And it's movies, and
that's why superheroes aren't a thing that are in real life.
Yeah,
we don't have an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because it's not that easy to just get up.
Hello.
I read that one of the things that was said about the first movie was that a lot of the technology, was obviously, unrealistic. You can't really do these things with this stuff. But that also made them think about it for this movie, and to think about the future, because it created things like some of the technology, like the holographic stuff and the computer terminals and things like that, and the thin flat screen stuff, that are now reality, that weren't, back in 2008, 2010 or whatever, so these last 10 years that technology has grown because of things that we saw in the movies, and you got to think about too, like Star Trek, all that technology was nuts back in the 60s and 70s, but now, we've got those things. We've got portable communication devices. We've got these things, so it inspires new technology.
And from what I think I actually read something or seen a documentary about Star Trek. A lot of our current scientists were inspired by Star Trek, Star Wars, stuff like that. So to where they wanted to see that. Think about when Star Trek the next generation came out. Do you remember the computer screens, the touch screens that they were using for navigation, computer? We were still at that point in time using keyboards and stuff like that. Now we have touchscreen TVs, touchscreen phones, all that stuff that we would that was futuristic, and just think that was what, in the early or mid 90s, and it took what? It didn't take that long to catch up to that whole technology. And
everybody in the chat is
I know. So somebody mentioned Star Trek.
Yes. Well, what I'm saying is it's amazing that science fiction has driven so much of real science. So
Rocket Robin.
Yes, Rockin' Robin's in, and so is Jim from More Sunshine. I think we did say hi to him.
Yeah.
Hey, Russ, Super Fluffy Yeti wanted to know what your plot holes were.
Yeah, well, to me, it's more plot holes as far as as far as within the comics and the way that they are done. I mean, I felt like they had to rush it so much and squish so many things together that
2
some
hours,
of it sometimes just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And like I say, it knowing the comic stories, there are holes that they just did. They started to talk about these things and then they just dropped it. So it's not necessarily. I mean, it still works fine for the movie. But as far as from a comic standpoint, it's like, okay, well, why are you talking about this? And then now you're, taking a complete left turn. So
it's very common in comics and manga to a plot starts and then just disappears.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
in Boku no Hero Academia. I never read the manga. I haven't read it, but I know that there's like the whole traitor arc, and apparently the creator of Boku no Hero Academia has admitted he forgot he even started that plot because he just did not continue it. He doesn't know who the traitor is. Like, that's just not a thing that they've talked about. So I don't know if they're gonna actually put that in the anime because he didn't write about it. It's very common for comics and stuff like that to just start something and completely forget about it.
Yeah. So I want to know what everybody's favorite scene was.
I don't think I had one.
No?
No, I just it didn't. Nothing about it really got me excited.
I thought my favorite scene was when he was watching the movies with his dad, when he was going through all of his the stuff that Nick Fury brought him, and he's going reading through the books, he's going through all the formulas, and he looks up at the films and stuff. That was my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when Black Widow took out Happy in the boxing ring.
That was cool though.
That was funny. That was funny.
I always enjoy.
I love when I love at the end.
God!
When Happy goes in, to help her the fight, and he's getting the crap beat out of him, and she's taking out everybody, and I got him.
Right.
Bye, Shelly.
All right, have a good day, Shelly. I would have to say my favorite scene is probably that opening scene. That's you start right
jumping
off
out of the plane.
Yes, just jumping out of the plane.
Yeah. Of course, now that isn't really the opening though either. That's because the opening is with Whiplash. But I get what you're saying.
But that scene, I mean, that's your.
I get what you're saying.
You see Iron Man.
Yeah, first time you see Iron Man. Now there's a deleted scene in front of that, Tracy.
Right. Yes, I've seen it. Yes.
Where he's like freaking out, which again, that was like, wow, like that's not. I'm glad they cut it.
It shows the arrogant, cocky Tony Stark that we love.
Yeah. And my favorite line is from Coulson, where he's telling Tony that he's got to stay put. And he says, if you try to leave, I'll tase you and watch Super Nanny while you drill on the carpet.
Yeah.
That's just, and he says it with a straight face. That's just, classic Coulson. I just love it.
Exactly.
So then I guess, speaking of Coulson, we'll segue into our ending.
Yes.
5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's so our ending is the
Coulson was reassigned
to the Nevada desert,
right?
Which segues into our after credit scene of Thor,
right?
They find the hammer. The hammer.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I tried to fast forward to get her to the point, and it went all the way too fast.
We'll just watch it again. We'll forward through the movie, and then we'll get to the end and let the credits run. He's like, Boomer's trying to fast forward it.
It was dark. I was pressing buttons on the controller, and then
whatever.
She was looking for the cricket.
I was not. Don't blame me for that.
So I agree, Jim. I want more Coulson in the movies, but he'll be in it. He'll be in it more.
Yeah.
He'll be in it more later on. So especially in Avengers.
I want my boy.
So is Thor next?
Yes.
So Thor is next. Yes.
Thor,
which I'm excited about.
Yes.
Okay.
Now remember, Thor has a different feel from Tony Stark, and
he has a hammer, right?
Oh my gosh, she's not gonna watch this movie.
Yeah, Angie, he's a carpenter.
Yeah.
She's not gonna.
He's literally a
She's not
god.
gonna understand any of this Asgard stuff at all.
He is a god, a literal god from a different planet.
Okay.
So, what's nice about Thor is you start to bring in the magical side of it. You know, we don't get to the true magical side until we actually get all the way up into
Doctor Strange.
But what's nice is that
which I can't wait for Angie to watch Doctor Strange.
Oh my goodness!
That's gonna put her over the edge. What's Jeff? What is
going on?
The building turning? What?
How did that happen? Who is this woman?
Yeah.
What?
So our next, it's more Shakespearean. You're going to have that little more Shakespearean theme to it, and unfortunately, you get the blonde eyebrows of Thor, which never come back after this movie.
Oh, jeez. All right.
I'm looking forward to watching it this week.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, Loki is in this one. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, this is the introduction of Loki. But you also get the...
And I'm excited to talk about the comics, because the Thor comics are great. So
the blonde eyebrows.
I'm excited to see Tom Hiddleston. I could cosplay as him now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So speaking of, we're at the top of the hour, and we'll hang out a little bit some more if we want, but I think we're losing people to dinner.
Yeah. It's all good.
Who's up next week? Is it Kenzie? Is you up?
Yeah, it'll be on Kenzie's channel next week. Yes.
So next week at 4:00 on Sunday, we're going to have Nerd Talk, and we're going to be discussing Thor. And I think that's all it's called, right? Thor.
Yeah, just Thor.
Thor. Yeah.
We love talking to you guys. We love you guys for coming in and chat.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Make sure you subscribe in the comments or in the description of this stream. I did put the links of all three of these fine channels
for you.
in our description of this of the stream. Please check them out if you haven't already subscribed to either Kenzie Days or Russ Stapleton or Diz Our Dream. Get a chance, check them out. Their content is incredible. And if you like hillbillies,
Russ has a good hillbilly accent.
You're gonna love
right here. This guy,
Russ.
This guy.
At some point, we got to do a stream where all he talks in is the hillbilly accent.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a very good stream.
So Russ, for Thor, Russ has to talk in the hillbilly accent. How about that?
Do what now?
You got to be hillbilly for that.
For Thor, you have to talk in hillbilly. You can't talk in anything but in the hillbilly accent.
All right, thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
We had a great time.
Russ, do you have anything else coming out?
Well, I'm working on a video for this coming Saturday, and I'm going to be talking about Disney Springs since that's going to be opening up, and then I haven't quite decided yet what I want to do for my Saturday stream, but it might be a game day. So we'll maybe talk about that here when we're done off stream. But yeah, so I've got some new camera equipment, and I'm going to play some games and stuff. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Neat.
Sweet. All right, Diz Our Dream, what do you got coming down the pipe?
Wednesday, baby.
Disney Springs.
Woo!
We're gonna go. I don't think we're gonna live stream, but we will do.
Okay, you're gonna do a real time upload.
We'll do real time upload. Yes.
We have a dinner. We changed our reservation from 4:00 to 12:00 at Wolfgang Puck's. So hopefully we
12 o'clock.
We'll get in early and
pretty late.
What's that?
At 12 o'clock at night. That's 12 o'clock a.m. I'm joking with you. I understand. So you're gonna be on at And then you got Dreaming with the Mouse on Myers and the Mouse channel this Thursday coming up, correct?
I think it's on our channel this time.
No.
Is
It was
it?
on our channel last time.
Oh, okay, you're right, Myers.
Remember,
you know better than I do.
I played the half off people.
You know better than I do.
And then you have your Saturday stream. So
Yes.
we're looking forward to it. And make sure you check out Disney Dream. They have some great content, great Disney content, great family content.
Thank
and
you.
I think and
What?
don't let the fact that Chris Evans visited their house and couldn't make a pizza discourage you.
Chris Evans is very bad at making pizza.
Never again.
Never again.
Maybe Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth.
Not Chris Evans.
Yeah. Okay, Kenz, what do you got coming up, hon?
4:30 to 5:30 tomorrow. That's about it. I don't really have an upload schedule yet. I'm just trying to get used to editing and all that. So all I really got 100% planned is the 4:30 to 5:30 tomorrow.
Carter Key K, you just or Carter Key 1401, welcome in. We're just about wrapping up.
Yep.
So my what's coming up on mine is just Thursday at 4:00, right before Disney Dreams. I'm going from 4 to 5, and then out there you'll see me in chat. Thank you guys for all showing up. Excellent stream. Next week, make sure if you guys want to be involved in the chat, make sure you watch Thor, and have a good night, guys.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Y'all
everyone.
come back now, you hear?
What?
I said, y'all come back now, you hear?